they have
Yes.
their customer bent over a barrel, probably a
Mm-hmm.
Donkey Kong barrel, and they're going to just bang on those conga drums and make you pay. Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel. We're a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who pulled out his bunny suit a little early. Too bad it was the wrong one. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Yeah. My attorney told me not to talk about the bunny suit. Um, right now, but I can say
Just not around
that.
children, man. Just not around children.
But I can say that yeah, I can't talk about it.
It brings a lot of joy to a specific set of people.
It
Okay,
brings joy
uh,
to some people, I suppose. Yeah, we
and
are
you like to
getting,
hide those eggs really good.
yeah. Um, so yeah, bunny suits. They are for a certain time in a certain place, um, and for a certain set of consenting adults.
Well, I mean, because we talk about anime so much, it's a natural fact of your life. And I think it was Dangers in My Heart. They make a good point about that, where his kid's having a birthday, and he has the girl he likes over, and he's like he talks to his sister like, "Where's my gift?" And she's like, "I'll give it to you later." And then the family's like, "No, no, why don't you give it to him now?" And so she's like, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah." So the sister gives the gift, and it's like, "Yeah, it's the anime figure you want," and she's in the bunny suit. And then the girl, he's trying to explain to the girl he likes. It's like, she's not always in a bunny suit. It just happens to be this is the bunny suit variant, you know. And then it's just like it brings up the good question, like, yeah, why is there always a bunny suit variant?
Hmm.
Like this show has nothing to do with, like, this is a period piece drama, and yet they'll throw him in a bunny suit. Uh, yeah, but yeah,
Because because money, because they sell.
yes, fan service sells. That's a notion by marketing all around the world. Okay, well, we got a bit of news. I'll let you take that away. What do we got?
We have some small bits of news. One could say, um, the Nintendo Switch 2 uh, Nintendo Direct has happened several days ago, as of this recording, but not too long ago. Enough for a little bit more news to come out about it. So we'll get to all of that here in a minute. But yeah, basically, we got the Nintendo Direct on the Nintendo Switch 2, and they were kind enough to include a lot of kind of extra stuff in there about games. So it was about an hour long. Happened on April 2nd. Yeah, so we're just going to go through some of the news that came out for that. And I guess the best place to start is the release date. June 5th is the current release date that they have right now. Price. This is kind of interesting. I guess first of all, the the price in the United States is going to be $450. So I would like to congratulate you, Joe, on picking that price correctly. Um,
Yep. So suck it.
Suck
All
it.
right.
Hey, go
All
ahead.
right. That's just my animosity and anger towards Nick for you know, trying to bait me into the 500 realm, being like, trying to gaslight me. That's going to be the new price. Oh
I mean,
no, it will be the new price, people. It when the OLED comes out, or their Switch point 5, 2.5 comes out, for sure, 550, especially with the prices of the games, 550 doesn't see, and then in America, who knows? But
I,
yes,
I really,
I think you were right in the long run.
I really would not have thought that, like, of the three price points that you could reasonably consider, 400, 450, and 500, um I really thought that 450 was the least likely, just because just because typically companies don't like to go in that middle zone. Um, but we are in a weird time because of the tariffs and because of all the stuff that's happened, and it's been a long time. So it is kind of like, well, it does put them in a weird zone. I think if this got released a couple of years ago, like Bloomberg said it was going to happen, it would probably be 400. Or if it was maybe even another year out, it might have a different price point still too. But yeah, so 450 is sort of that middle range. I was kind of thinking about it too, and in hindsight, I was like, you know, at at 450, you are you are not like, I'm going to make a very obvious statement here. At 450, you are not at 500. And that is to say that the mindset of something being 450 is a lot different than it being at 500. I feel like once you cross that 480, 475 line, which would be like a weird place to be, even weirder place to be. But once you cross that line, you're basically at 500. So, and I feel like at 500 you're at half a thousand, and people start thinking about things in bigger chunks and comparing it to other things that are in that realm. So in hindsight, it does kind of make some sense. It's like from a mind space um, viewpoint, it is like, all right, well, 450 um, sort of helps it sound a little cheaper, I guess.
Yeah, it like I said, it made sense that it did go up by 100. Uh, and for them already having the OLED out, being at 350, just jumping it up to 450 is a you know was a possibility. And then now they also did the bundle, and the bundle does hit the 500 price point. And they're making it seem like a value proposition because of how much. Well, we'll get to that. The cost of the games themselves. So if you buy the Switch with Mario Kart World as a bundle, that will be 499, and that's supposed to be a better value. And people can then swallow that pill a little bit more. They hit that 500 point, but like, but I get something to play. Uh, and but that's not it. That's not all though. They decided to region lock their own unit
That
because
was
of
the other
the
thing. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
I'll let you talk about that then.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think I could pull it up in that text you sent me. But for Japan language only or Japanese only, um, it's like equivalent of like $339.
It's like it's essentially 340, and it's 50,000 yen. Um,
And then four
and but
sixty
because
nine dollars if it's the multi language version,
so it's one of those things that a lot of people are like, all right, so how long is it going to take to like crack this thing? Because
and just load
that's like,
English on it. Yeah.
yeah, just wipe it, put a new OS, homebrew it, and it's a really shady thing to do. Essentially, I mean, I understand you can't necessarily burn your home market because your currency is so bad. It's not fair to them, but at the same time it's just like you decided to region lock something. Part of the reason why we got rid of region locks was because of Japan making unique games only to Japan. It's not, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
or other countries having outrageous price points, and it's just cheaper to buy import from different countries. A lot, places in Europe, uh, places, like Brazil traditionally has like crazy prices
Oh yeah, it's
compared
like
to the
terrible
U.S.
Brazil stuff. Oh, so awful.
So if it's not, if it's region free, then you can import it at a much, it's like a much better cost to the person, and the overall better experience. And at the same time, when it comes to anything Nintendo or anything Japan related, you're gonna get like weird visual novels or unique games, quirky games that are traditionally like Japan specific, and they're not going to get localized. I mean, it's better nowadays. You can get things localized a little easier, but at the same time, it's just like uh, it's they're in that is a tough spot to do, and I personally don't like it. But I can't necessarily say a bit, like I don't also want the Japanese people, like like I said, to just get screwed over and be like, no, we gotta pay, you know, we gotta pay those Brazilian prices for consoles. I mean, it's
I mean, it's
uh
like, so there's not, uh, this is a question. There's not a, there's not a real technological reason for this giant difference in price, is there? Like, I mean, it is basically just a, we are going to give the Japanese people, our Japanese customers, a break on this,
yeah. So it's a
theoretically.
matter of it's yeah. In theory, it's the so because the Japanese yen is so weak right now. Uh, to be honest, I'm not sure what their actual local prices are for the average console. I know that if right now the all the tourists are flocking over there because foreign currency is way stronger,
Mm-hmm.
and they're buying up a lot of retro games more than ever, and they're buying up a lot of merch. So it's good for their economy, but at the same time, I'm not sure if how it is compared to the their normal homeland prices, and I have a feeling that Japan hasn't really discounted any of their current stuff to meet the economic needs of the people. Like, I don't really, we haven't heard of the PS5 dropping in price. In fact, we didn't mention this before, but the PlayStation actually started a through was it Geo? I think they always pronounce it Geo. It was the one of their used reselling markets. It was like a rental store slash reseller. They started renting out PlayStation 5s for I forget what it was. It was like something. It was pretty cheap. It was like I'm gonna misquote it now, but like $10 a month or something, or like it was like $10 a week or something like that. So a weekly rental. They ship it out to you, and they can take it back first time for new users for free. And they ran out of stock for renting out PlayStation 5s.
Wow.
It was, it's a really decent, you know, cheap deal for kids who can't afford, to actually have own the unit. And it's kind of a brilliant plan. Uh, but it's like based on how their economy is, like, yeah, you gotta. The way I feel, and I'll get to this more later, but I feel that the new Switch is kind of like a PlayStation Pro, PlayStation 4 Pro.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's it plays or like it plays certain things. Like the games that are coming out for it. I'm looking at. I'm like, yeah, you're going to be scaled back. You can play certain things better than you used to. But when they got stuff like Cyberpunk coming out, I'm like, okay, so Cyberpunk's running. I wonder how much of it's toned back for specifically for the Switch. How many features are removed? Uh, but at the same time, because they have some of that AI processing, they're supposed to be upscaling certain things. Um, and there's a lot of language, colorful language in there, being like, handheld up to 1080p, which that's what you were claiming, you were backing that originally, so you were right about that, like
Oh,
handheld being 1080.
okay, yeah.
Um, I was uh, but then they're also like when it's docked, it's going to be with caveats, but it's like it can be upscaled to or it can be up to 4K. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, well, that up to number makes it sound really suspicious, and it's going to be edge cases only, and it's going to be probably a lower resolution upscaled. So it's just
3500
like
instead
it
of
won't be
3800. Yeah, something like that.
yeah. So these things aren't going to be native numbers. That or at least I don't believe they will be. That's my stance on that, and I don't think you're just going to be able to it's not the quote unquote next gen experience that you might be expecting. It is for them, but they've been sitting on the Switch One for
Yeah.
so
It's
long.
not it's not new
Yeah,
technology. It's the new Nintendo system. That's where
yeah,
we're at, you know. So yeah, it's you're buying this ultimately to play Nintendo games and to maybe a little bit play other games as well on the go, you know.
yeah,
It's not going to be,
and
if you got another one of the top line systems or a PC, that is probably going to be where you're going to want to put a new state of the art kick ass game or play one.
So, yeah, we'll talk about the games that have been announced for it in just a moment too. But it being released June 5th, that checks out. Rumors had it saying in June. I mentioned it would have to be after their hands-on tour,
Mm-hmm.
and so the last we knew or last I paid attention to was uh, like Korea. Even though they're starting in Japan, working their way west, wrapping around, they ended up essentially they're going to Korea as one of their last places, and you know that one is going to be May 30th through June 1st. So I figured anything after that. I mean, at the time, was that Taipei and Hong Kong were to be announced. So I'm not sure when those are launched. When those events are supposed to be happening.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sense that they're going to be launching the 5th because uh, those outlets will still be able to get hands on prior to. Because what's the point of getting hands on if you can already technically buy it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that all checks out.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, I mean, what else? So that's
I
the
mean,
big thing.
I don't
Price
know.
and
It's
date.
just that the difference in price of 339 versus 467, or let's just say really like we're realistically 339 versus 450, is a massive price difference. And I don't know. I just I will be very interested to find out more about that later. It's just it's over $100. I mean, that's mind boggling. But going on,
It is.
yeah. So but that's really all we have on it right now. Going on the
Here's the other.
specs.
Well, the other thing is people are saying is this is going to drive people away. This is driving people away to go to Steam Deck, and because for granted, the Steam Deck is going to be more expensive for the base unit. Well, it can and can't be right because the LCD 256 it goes for 400 right now.
Hmm.
So, for 400, and you get the entire PC catalog under your hands. Um, Now, if you go with once you go up to the OLED 512, that's a 550. So that's a bit of a price jump. But once again, you're getting a much quote unquote better unit. And you can even go up to a 1 terabyte for the 650 OLED Steam Deck. But you get all the PC games all to you, and those go on sale all the time. You may already have a PC. That means you can just you immediately have an Insta library. The only thing you're missing is the unique Nintendo properties, the things that make people come back to Nintendo, the Mario, the Zelda, stuff like that. So
Anything new that they might put out as well. It's yeah, it's weird. Um, it's weird, but I don't really feel like Steam is I don't know. To me, like I know what I have a good idea of what um, a Nintendo consumer looks like, but a Steam Deck user, I feel like that is a narrower range, and you have all the right, you have like in a completely unbiased world or whatever, the Steam Deck is a better option, but somehow that Nintendo magic or whatever you want to call it, brainwashing, um, for now it doesn't worry me, but it's something to watch for sure. Um, going on, getting into the specs a little bit. 7.9-inch screen. We were thinking 8-inch screen, so that pretty much tracks. It's going to be the same thickness as the Switch One. I watched a little bit, not all of, but a little bit of a review by Marquise Brownlee, and he was saying that even though it's the same thickness because it is a larger screen, and the way they have everything sort of laid out on it, it feels very. He said it feels appropriately thin and and sleek, And so I was like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. If it's a wider area, then I don't know how thin I would actually want um, a very wide area, a piece of electronics to be, So that sounds good to me. And then yeah, 1080p LCD screen. I resisted the urge to put the word vivid that they put on there, vivid LCD. I'm like, that doesn't freaking mean anything. But it's a vivid LCD screen, so I guess it probably has something to do with the nits that it gets so bright or whatever. I don't know.
To qualify for HDR or something like that. It's probably the marketing lingo for that.
So yeah, speaking of that, it is saying HDR support. So I took that to mean that when you plug it into your HDR TV, that it will do HDR, but I don't know for sure. Anyway, they said HDR support. Something I was kind of surprised to see was 120 hertz, up to 120 hertz. That's interesting. Um, I don't know. Like it's like, okay, how often is it going to get 120 hertz? If it's running Doom, the original Doom, then yeah, it probably will. But for other games, maybe, probably not. I was just sort of surprised it was not, 60. Hey, 60, like it or not, this is what we're going to do. Um, that was surprising to me, but here we are. 120 hertz.
Yeah, that's the thing is it's certain games. For example, the one I remember for PlayStation 4 Resogun when that came out. Housemarque's side-scrolling airplane, like shooter. That sucker, like uh, it's kind of a rare example. Or was that Ori and the Blind, like Will o' the Wisp, or like Blind Forest or whatever. Those Ori games are a cut above the rest. They are tech demos, quality games, but also kind of like tech pieces, showcases. So when they show them in the beginning, everyone's like, "Yeah, this is the capability of it," and then the reality is very different.
Mm-hmm.
So while it can do, and that's the thing is they do all they're up to 120, up to 1080, up to 4K on the screen, and like that is uh outliers. Certain things very much take that with a grain of salt, expect it to not be consistent, just like uh PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro. That's an 8K machine with maybe one game, like that they eventually
Yeah.
removed 8K from the PlayStation box because there was a bunch of
Hooey.
BS.
Well, they
um
already made their sales targets, for the
Yeah,
first
I
wave.
mean, I'm surprised the class action lawsuit didn't happen from that, because generally, people like to just band together to get the $12 for for doing something like that.
I,
And
I think I got $50 for my 970 back in the day.
yeah, I think I missed out on that one altogether. I was still overseas, and I'm like, yeah, I was like, yeah, it's too much effort. I'm
Uh,
not gonna bother.
I'm
Like,
not
I have
mailing this
no at
shit
home address to
international.
even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not letting my
So all
mom
right,
get my $50.
but yes, so that's it. I mean, just it's nice that it is capable in certain outlying cases, and like any of those arcadey old school arcadey throwback shooters and stuff like that. That'll be pretty nice to be able to run, theoretically run 120, and it all depends on their upscaling tech. We'll see how that really pans out in the end. But yes, anything above 60, hey, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's definitely cool. So we'll see how. I mean, honestly, it's not the 120, up to 120 that I care about. It's the minimum. What is the minimum 60? That is the thing that I really care about. Like, where are we stable? If you can, and it'll probably be 30 on a lot of games and stuff like that still or whatever. But I would, so I would much rather from Nintendo hear like the not that they would really be able to say this, but at least in practice, if like most people were like, hey, the games are at 60, stable frame rate, 58, like whatever, that would really impress me. A commitment to a floor of something higher than 30. Even 45, heck, would be nice, but preferably 60. And I think that's what I always beat the drum on is let's just get that floor to something higher than 30. Um, next up,
which is impossible for the current Switch. So
yeah.
that is asking something to at least have a minimal of base, a steady 30 for bare minimum. But yeah, ideal world 60 stable for all things.
Where's
But when
that?
it comes to something like with something like the Cyberpunk coming out, Cyberpunk, you're gonna. I mean, I'll be happy if they get a stable 40 for your TV. like, but like that's the thing is like, well, with all the new tech and with them with doing whatever they need to do to put it on the Switch too, you would assume or hope. Actually, you shouldn't assume anything. You should just hope that it would just be at least a solid 30 through and through.
Hmm.
All the effects, firefights, and all that. Hopefully a solid, rock solid 30 bare minimum. Uh, you know,
Yeah, yeah, I would like that. All right, going on. Storage, 256 gigs of storage. How much did the original Switch have? Like 60, something like that. I heard it's like four
uh,
times more. 64 gigs. Because I heard it's like four times more.
yeah, I think the original model was less than that, and they ended up increasing it over time.
Okay.
I honestly don't remember what my Switch model is because I just threw in an SD card and forgot about it.
Pretty much, yeah. I got a beefy SD card, like right away, and and did that. So yeah, it's. I mean, but 256 is. It's like I don't really care about that. If obviously I want something higher, but as long as I can run and store all my stuff off of a card, that's what I'm going to do anyway. I'm going to get a 500 gigabyte or terabyte, card, and just live that life because that's easier at this point. But it is nice, I guess, that they are including that out of the box. So if you are, a parent or a kid who's just trying to save up their money to buy it, you can freaking come home with the game with the console and a game, maybe all in one box, and freaking play and have fun and not have to worry about any of that stuff.
So it was 32 gigs
32.
for the
Gosh.
internal storage for the original and the light, and then it's
Wow.
64 for the OLED model.
32.
So that is, I mean, once again, that's you kind of were forced to. I think I ended up buying uh, I got like a 1 year. I ended up getting like a medium sized memory card for with a 1 year member of like subscription or something like that, or it was vice versa. I bought the memory card and came with a 1 year subscription
Yeah.
to their online service, and that's literally it. They were just kind of like just giving away memory cards, and they were talking about how you can fit so many more games. I'm like, well, it depends on the size. Like they didn't hint, they didn't want to open up can of worms of how big the new games were going to be. They compared it to the old games, and like it could fit
Oh.
all these games in. And I'm like, yeah, you're kind of glossing that part over. When you rip off that band-aid about, oh yeah, new generation, of course the games are going to be bigger. You're talking about, bigger franchises, Elden Ring and stuff like that. You're going to Yeah, obviously it's going to take up more size. You're going to just need it. So it's going to be, I think it's about the equivalent, right? It's like game inflation. Next generation games, they grow exponentially a certain size, and your tech's going to, if they want to utilize your tech, well, so you're going to have to increase the internal storage to match that.
Are you saying that
Uh,
256 is the new 32?
Probably. I mean,
I
I would have
think
never gotten a 256.
I think it's
Only if I'm just doing straight music, and I probably still wouldn't even do that for just music alone for like an iPod or something. You'd go with at least a 512 or a 1 terabyte for music, just music. Yeah.
what's an iPod?
Okay.
Um,
Same thing.
yeah, 256. I mean, I think that it's probably. I think that it's that's. I think 256 now is better than 32 in 2017. I would say that, but it's enough to get you by. At least you're not coming home with a PlayStation 1 and forgetting to buy a memory card, because that happened to a lot of people.
Or not having the money to buy one, because that was me. I literally couldn't. I had Final Fantasy VII, and I had no money for a memory card for like a month, 2 months, or something like that.
Yeah.
That was rough.
And now you will never forget that lesson that you don't even need to know about anymore. Um, yeah. So
You know how lucky you have it, kids.
yeah, kids these days. Next up, faster game card reading speed. I don't know what that means. I couldn't. I didn't do a lot of research as usual, so I guess there's probably some clock somewhere that somebody will have specs on or has specs on. So yeah, I guess what they're saying is that games will load faster than they did before.
So there it's a new micro SD card uh, technology essentially. So it's the by having a new standard for the micro SD cards, it's essentially their memory card equivalent of going to um, a new form of SSD. So
Okay.
it's in theory it's it's neat because that with that card coming out, that means other things will be utilizing that. You're talking about cameras and like other electronic devices. You'll be able to have a faster read speed, utilizing better USB transfer rates and whatnot. uh, but essentially it's just trying to get into like nowadays you can't have a lot of video games will say bare minimum is an SSD. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you can't have an old fashioned hard drive to play
HDD. Yeah.
a lot of the current new games. So that's good. I mean, that's I mean, it sucks for anyone who wanted to use their old if they already had like a 2 terabyte from their old system and they're like, yeah, I want to use that 2 terabyte from my Switch One or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I'm going to use it. I want to use it to my Switch Two. You can't do that now. You're gonna have to buy a new one, but
It's
also at the same time, it's still a standard micro SD card, not a proprietary piece of Sony garbage like I've had
mm,
to do for the PSP and the Vita. Uh, I've wasted so much, and their memory cards wasted so much money on. So yes, hey, it's standard, and because of that, it's going to be jailbroke eventually. Like that's exactly how they
I'm
jailbreak them almost
surprised
every
it's
time.
not already jailbroken.
Yeah, so well, the thing is, you have to. Chances are you're gonna have to go underground now, right? The dark web, because anytime they mention it out loud, they'll get whoever pops their head up will get sued into oblivion or threatened by Nintendo. So for doing homebrew software,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I wonder. Yeah. I wonder how the math works out on shutting on lawsuits versus money lost to piracy.
it's the same way they do it for protection for like AAA games. So a lot of times they'll pay a company to protect their game, and a lot of people hate that piracy protection software because it usually runs
The
the games
nouveau and
or it's
stuff.
running things in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most infamous one. But those that usually only runs for like traditionally would only run for the first couple of years. And then after that, they do the math, being like, "All right, you protected us for this long. We've gotten the majority of our bulk sales. We're putting this thing game on like 50% off at this point, so we can remove that. And if people are going to pirate, most people already have it or already played it by this point,
Right.
so it's kind of a moot
So
point.
so yeah, like all that stuff. But like what I wonder about is how, because like lawsuits aren't free. Lawsuits cost money, and I just wonder how that factors in. Someone must have done the math. Like, well, we're losing this much, or we're projected to lose this much, so we need to do lawsuits that will cut it down by this much, so that we are making this much. I mean, there's got to be somebody, some poor intern who has to crunch those numbers, right?
Yeah, I feel like the lawsuits are more of a protection thing. Like, hey, we can't have a precedent. We can't let this slide. So by throwing a lawsuit out there one or two times, and then trying to make an example of a person or two, uh, that kind of doesn't cover our losses. But at least once again, it makes a statement for the rest of them. It's
Yeah.
the Japan feudal lord era of I'm going to mount my enemy's head on a pike in front of everyone else and be like, see this? This could be you, and like get everyone to back off.
It could
So that's
happen to
kind of
you. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely part of it. I mean, like at the end of the day, like at the end of the day you have to make profits, and lawsuits cut into profits. Obviously, they're basically betting that lawsuits will cut into profits less than piracy in the very long run, but I just was wondering about that out loud. Next thing up, only micro SD express cards are compatible with the Switch 2. So the old micro SD cards are not compatible. So got to emphasize the express on there. So when you go to buy a um, a card, a memory card for your Switch 2, remember to type Express into Amazon as well. Just that's kind of a PSA almost, but yeah, that was something I thought bared mentioning.
Which correlates to the thing you just mentioned before about faster card reading speeds. So that's all integrated there, and yeah, I
Coolant.
mean once
Yeah.
again, it's better for the long run. I think for most, it's just the next level of card technology. But like I said, it's they specifically said if you want to transfer, you have to have your old system, and then you could hook it up, wirelessly, and then transfer data, your save data from your old game unit, Switch One to the Switch Two, and that's how you're supposed to get your saves over. Because they won't even let you, pop in the SD card just to move saves or something like that. You have to do it like wirelessly. So
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll be tracking all that as well. I wonder. Anyway, so that's kind of interesting. And then getting into some other features, game chat. Nintendo steps boldly into 2010, 2009, 2006, uh,
wait, I mean Xbox 360 era, heck,
2005.
Xbox OG.
So 20 years they step boldly into 2005 and have a game thing they're calling it game chat. And basically it is, and it does look it does look nice, but basically this is their online chat answer, and this seems to be what the C button is all about. So they have a new dedicated C button, bottom right corner, and pressing that button activates this and lets you navigate around. So there's lots of pictures and stuff online, but basically it shows people playing with their cameras off. We'll get to the camera in a second. With their cameras off at first, and you can, like, let's say four people are playing Mario Kart, and they're all like talking to each other and stuff like that. And then I'm not sure about all the other features that it allows you to do, but it's basically like your voice and stuff like that, and probably some limited text stuff as well as per usual. Um, looks looks simple, but sleek. Um, as far as I can tell, Joe, is there anything else you want to add on to that, real quick?
Yeah, so I know we knock on it for being very behind the times for just the chat function. I'm just going to get, and we'll talk about the other functions in just a minute. But they're claiming, or they're touting that their microphone, you're going to be able to have it docked, and it's going to be able to pick up just your voice, and it's going to noise cancel the game and noise cancel the things behind you. Uh, so they show an example. So this is, we'll see how this plays out, because when you have it docked, obviously it's going to be theoretically closer to your TV, unless if you have a weird setup where you have like a really long HDMI cable. But you're going to have it right next to your TV, playing from your TV speakers. Uh, and they showed this person sitting on the couch, maybe like 10 feet away or something like that, speaking, or maybe 6 feet away, but speaking to everyone else, picking up on the microphone on the unit itself. I'm like, okay, that's cool that you can hear your voice. I wonder how much harder it's going to work trying to noise cancel the game that's blaring right next to it. And also, what about other people's voices coming through? Are you going to get a bad echo effect? Because if it's just going to register people's voices, or is it going to try to send a weird digital signal that cancels out? Say I'm playing with you, I'm talking to my unit, and then your voice comes in through my TV. Is it just going to somehow register your voice coming out of my TV as not a human voice, but like a in-game audio? Uh, and then it doesn't loop back to you because you're not going to hear yourself talking every time you say something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about that. I don't really trust that microphone all too much as far as being docked. Uh, and they're going to sell, they sell extra stuff. They So we'll get to that other as well, but I was just like,
I mean,
that
okay,
it potentially is good. If it works out really well, awesome. That's all I got to say
it
about that.
does seem like a lot. It does seem like a lot to ask for a $450 system. You can do a lot with with catching sound in a directional way, but you have to have a lot of gear to do that. You have to have the right hardware, and it's not easy. Um, uh, and then so it's like, okay, so they might have a little bit of tech or whatever that is in the Switch microphone that is catching things in a more directional way. So maybe they're doing that. The other way that they might be able to mess with it is with some sort of, you know, AI or some sort of software tech that
It's
is taking
totally software, in my opinion.
that's like, yeah, it's got to be mostly software, but it's like they might be taking what is playing in the game and coming out of the TV and extrapolating that out and feeding and feeding only your voice or something. So doing that in general is tough. Doing it in real time isn't going to be any easier. Um, but you know, it sounds like it will probably work well enough in a very ideal situation. But but barely anybody has an ideal living room or an ideal situation. So this one is very much I really want to see. I really want to see how the cookie crumbles on this because it sounds like it could be a colossal disaster. But whatever.
Oh, see, all right. The one thing I have hope in is because we're talking about Nvidia here. Nvidia's Nvidia's providing the GPU power, and Nvidia Broadcast has a really decent noise cancellation function.
Okay.
the but the the offset is how much power is that going to take from your unit, right? How much is it going to impact performance if you have family members running around the background, or like vacuum going off, or like just outside noise if you just live in a noisy neighborhood. uh all the extra noise that's going to be canceling out, how much is that going to impact your quality of gameplay?
Yeah.
That's I mean, Nvidia has proven that their noise cancellation is really solid. I
What?
know I talk a lot of crap about them lately, but that's the one thing is, like, especially when that tech demo came out for the 30, was that the three, yeah, the 30 series,
Yeah.
where like people are using like vacuums, or like playing loud construction noise on their phone and still be able to talk. It muffles and it compresses your voice a lot, but you could still hear you and not the extra noise.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I would. I guess it's getting more juice from it being docked, so that's why it only works in docked. But this sounds much more like something that would be easier to do if it's handheld, and it has to deal with like, oh, you're holding it in your hand, so we're only going to account for this being 2 feet away from your face, you know, or a foot away from your face, and we're going to work off of that. That seems like a much easier way to do it, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it actually plays out.
well, I think the noise cancellation function will still be available to you even if it's in handheld.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Oh,
once again, though, I'm just curious what the impact of performance is going to be,
yeah.
depending on how loud your surrounding. Like, say if you're in an airport, or if you're just like you're a kid at a restaurant, or something like that, or it's like just out and about, school field trip, or on the bus or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or someone commuting to and from work. It's like, well, how much of that's going to impact, because it's going to pick up extra noise. Chances are you're not going to be chatting out loud via open mic, uh, but you could. So it's kind of a unique situation. In the end, chances are anyone who's doing that is going to have a dedicated mic setup, so it'll be less of a serious point at that point.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll see.
like all the streamers are gonna have the thing in the next freaking room where they're in their server room where they have all their computers and they're, you know, completely mic'd up and stuff. So, um, but Nintendo cares about the everyman, so they're not really worried about that. Um, the last thing to say about that is that this is going to be so Game Chat is only going to be working through their Nintendo Online service, which they are making, or at least the chat part. I can't remember which, but basically the game chat aspect at least is going to be free until March 2026. So just about a year from now, which I think is wise on their part. You need to give people time to have it and use it and go, okay, this is cool, and then get used to it and addicted to it. So that's smart. And then
First taste is free.
first time's free. Uh, so next up, there's a camera. There is a standalone camera that they are putting out. I don't remember too much about this. I was kind of like neat, and then moved on. It is made. It is on a small pole, and so it is made to kind of travel around with you while you are playing your Switch, I guess. Yeah. So I guess they just really wanted to back up the game chat thing with a camera.
All right. So with this, the only unique part that kind of separates this from your standard face camera while you're talking to friends is you'll be able to pull up. You're going to be able to pull up your friend's face, and it's going to be essentially green screened overlay on your game, just like a streamer would.
Oh,
So
okay.
just like a Twitch stream. So they showed Mario Kart playing in the background, just the outline of the person in the corner, and then you can do that up to with up to uh, it looked like 5 people because it had 4 screens on the bottom, and then you had you playing on top. Unless if it's mirroring you on the bottom, which, but anyways, it's just taking up. If you want to see all your friends and their points of view while playing the game, you can see on the bottom of the screen each one of their mini games. I'm like, it's just taking more away from your personal screen, but that's cool. And then you can see everyone's quote unquote live reaction. So instead of just having their face, it's showing their gameplay too. Uh, Once again, I'm curious how that's going to impact performance. Uh, but that is a unique function that they don't really have with other, you don't really get that on other consoles. If you and I are playing, I don't get to see a mini screen of your gameplay footage in the corner. So it provides that Twitch like experience to a certain extent with other people, and I guess it's almost like couch co-op, like traditional sense. So that is a unique twist. I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's just what it
it's
comes
not
down.
it's not really for us, but I'm just trying to think if you're somewhere between 8 years old and let's just say 8 to 15, somewhere in there, um, and you don't have a job or whatever, this is kind of an interesting all-in-one, for you to be able to chat with your friends and do all this stuff. I guess if you don't already have a phone, um, so it's interesting. It's an interesting idea. Um, that like it's interesting in that it is a that it's already that it's all in one. Because the other systems haven't put that out yet. Um, so I just wonder how much people are actually going to use it. It's one of those things that I think could secretly be um, a widely used, widely praised aspect where it's like, hey, we didn't really think this was going to be that big of a deal at launch, but now we have like all these, but now like everybody's into it because it's so easy to jump on and see your friends and hang out with your friends. And this game got really really big because it was like multiplayer on Switch, and it, like, you never know. And this just has a feeling of one of those things where it's sneakily going to be more important than maybe we think right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think it'd be neater if it was, say, it brings back those old like Nintendo 64 GoldenEye days or something like that when you have a split screen. But because they're all just these small little thumbnails, pictures on the bottom of your screen, and from the look of it, the gameplay footage is at a considerably lower frame rate.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty choppy. It kind of reminds me of Monster Hunter World on the PS4, and just playing it, and then you have the monsters in the far distance running at like half rate. So it's almost a weird blocky animation as they're going through, and it's just like, oh yeah, dude, that's it's just kind of jarring. And that's what they were showing in the stream. I'm like, all right, that's what we should be expecting, is hopefully
At
good
best.
quality facial features and talking. But the gameplay is like, okay, you can kind of see, you get the important part. They are and that's where the fun part comes in. You're like, oh, uh, Nick, I can see that you're right behind me in Mario Kart. So I need to, if I'm, you're screen sniping essentially, being like, hey, oh, he's right behind me. He has a green shell. I gotta move, or I have something I can drop behind me, and so I'm gonna get right in front of you and then try to sabotage you.
Right.
That part can kind of be a little more fun instead of having to like physically like make your character the camera angle turn around.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat. Like I said, it's a gimmick, but but it might actually turn out well. And I think for younger audiences, that might be really fun because once again, this is a kid's theoretically it's a kid's toy
Mhm.
with with an adult pricing behind it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, but that's pretty much it for the camera that I'm aware of.
Yeah. I was gonna say something else. Oh yeah. So what we have this 7.9-inch screen and we have the 120 hertz. But really, I mean, obviously, you just want to play a game. You're gonna get the benefits of those things. Um, but if you want to play a game and have game chat running, at 100 miles per hour, you're going to be eating up a good portion of that 7.9-inch screen, and you're going to be reducing your frame rate down to whatever it's capable of handling, which we both think 120 hertz is very unlikely for almost every game. Um, so yeah, it seems. I mean, it's more real estate, more power, but it's in some ways, in most ways, that is going to be useful to actual gaming. But it's just interesting to me to think about how you're going to be giving that up if you want to do game chat. So just something to keep in mind. Um, and then so a couple other things here. Next up is game share. Yeah, I didn't skip anything. Game share. So I don't have the exact specs for how this works pulled up, but basically you can share games with other people, with other Switch users, if you're on the same local network. Um, so it's not like you can let somebody borrow a game who lives in the neighborhood over or the city over or somewhere else in the world. They've got to be on the same network. And I forget how many it is. I think it's like 3 or 4 or something. Yeah, so sort of just for just it's sort of just for family stuff, and so you don't literally have to let them borrow the cartridge or something. Is there anything you know
Yeah,
more about
they
this, Jake?
showed. So the picture they showed was a single unit being like the host and having three other units in the house. I don't know if they specifically said three total or three extra. It reminds me of the Nintendo DS, the Mario Kart DS, the original one that came out forever ago, because
Okay.
they had a function similar where you can share with someone, and this kind of fixes uh, the big problem with, say, Animal Crossing, when because you had to buy Animal Crossing and you had to get it. They'll probably try screw you over with this anyways. But back then,
Somehow.
you're like, that's what people thought. Were like, I'll be able to share Animal Crossing with my friends or my family, and they nope, one island per unit, and they just screwed everyone over. And that's kind of where I think my animosity really started with them, is back
Yeah,
when they started pulling
that
stuff
was
like that.
egregious. I remember people, lots of podcasters talking about like this is insane, right? I mean, one like what? Like, are you serious? You can't even give me like even one extra file. One extra file would be stupid, but even it's crazy. That's just crazy. But so
Yeah,
yeah, I don't
I
remember
would have
that
I would have
happening.
hands down I would have hands down bought a brand new unit for my spouse so we can both play together. Like I would have gladly done that. So they can have theirs, I can have mine. But they made it such a cluster that I just didn't even bother. And that's kind of when I kind of like that was the last kind of straw. I'm like, all right, yeah, I've kind of wiped my hands and I'm just gonna dabble in their stuff from time to time. But honestly, any of their indie games, I'll just play on my PC. And that's kind of how I just it was kind of that was kind of the breaking point for myself. But when it comes to this function now, they're going to be able to let you share games, and that makes more sense with games like also like Mario Party or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone should own a copy of Mario Party. In fact,
No
only
one.
it's only usually that one friend in a group that wants to play Mario Party, and
Right.
so therefore this makes it a nice feature to have. We're like, okay, fine, we can all play. We all have our dedicated screen. It makes it easier for us to play, so we're not trying to share a thing.
You
I think this
reminded me.
is the right move.
You reminded me. There's the old giant bomb Mario Party stuff was so funny. There was one that I watched. Gosh, there was one that I watched where it's just horrible. And like, um, gosh, it's so like the game ends and somebody is like, "Who lost?" And Jeff Gershman goes, "We all did. We all did." It's just, oh man, so classic. I'm sorry. So yeah, yeah. This is a step, I guess, a step in the right direction. There needs to be some sort of game sharing ability. We'll see how good it is or how bad it is once we all get our hands on it. Next up, game keys. So we'll probably talk about this a little bit more in the next tiny section. Um, but basically, so I think I understand this right. So when you buy a game cartridge, a physical uh, Nintendo game cartridge, the game isn't really on it, which we've kind of had in a lot of disc-based games for a little while now, at least to some degree. Um, but basically, when you buy a Nintendo cartridge, it's the for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's the game is not on the cartridge. It is really just a key that is telling Nintendo that you have permission to download it. Um, so, kind of, there's different ways to take that, and we will take all of those ways here in a second. But it seems to me like this is a this is their answer to the piracy problems that they've had, because the thing with the Switch 1 is when you bought a game, the game was just on the cartridge, whereas a lot of other you game publishers and stuff, they would put most of the game or a good chunk of the game on the disc, but you still had to download a lot after you got home or after you got it loaded up on your console. So like Metroid, um, and and Zelda were both out, online, um, right at the point of launch or maybe a little bit prior to launch. So all I can think is they're just like, well, we have to um, make that more difficult, and the best way for them to do that is just to lock it behind their lock it behind their servers until it's time to be released.
Yeah, this is kind of BS. This is like now there has been cases on with disc games, but it's not the most common thing. Yes, there are a lot of games will come out and there's a day one patch you have to download right away, and some updates. But theoretically, there is a playable game on the disc,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of games like Call of Duty, where you then have to download the background server, like their online multiplayer function, and it's like 100 gigs plus or something, and you can't really fit all that on a Blu-ray. That's fine. It's those are like the outliers, but as a whole, you at least have a game on a disc that you can play. Uh, and this is like, no, no, no. You're buying, and certain games have done this before too, where you buy the box, open the box, and it's like just a code, and then you put the code in to download the actual game. Well, like, so you just paid for a physical version just to have a thing on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's very anti-consumer. It very much goes a lot of people who like the physical media, for both the collection aspect and also just the right to own, the right to own, the right to resell, and it's uh, I'm not going to go into this, but it's just it's BS is what it is. And unfortunately, Nintendo is just trying to screw everyone over. But what it does do is it makes it cheaper to cost the carts. So because that's the thing is it used to be with the Switch One games. Well, you had certain size memory carts that you have, and so theoretically, if a game is a bigger file and you have the entire game on a cart, then you have to charge a higher price for producing said cart.
Mm.
Because just the technology within the cart itself is that much, it's just a little bit
It's five
higher
dollars
price
more
bump.
or whatever. Yeah.
But now the price bump to own a cart is kind of bogus because you're still getting a digital thing
Uh,
only. So we'll
yes.
get into that later. But once again, Nintendo is screwing over us as and if you like to actually have the thought of ownership, they're just saying giving the consumer a middle finger, and you're just like you're just gonna have to deal with it because we're Nintendo, and you're gonna do it anyways. You're gonna do what we say because you really really want that Mario, and you really really want that new Zelda. So go screw yourself and do what we tell you to. Now bark like a dog.
Speaking of getting screwed over hard by Nintendo, Nintendo is switching prices too. Um, so this was a little bit more, so that there is some price switching, changing going on. This is a little bit more shocking when I first heard about it because I thought it was for everything. But after doing a little bit more reading, it's a little bit less surprising and more along the lines of what they have kind of done in the past. Um, but I didn't care for it then. I understand it a little more now, but I didn't care for it then, and I don't really care for it now. So basically, Switch game prices, the standard price is going to be $60, but some games are going to be more than that. Some games are going to be $80 for digital and $90 for physical. At least that is what we are hearing right now. Um, Guess which games are going to be more expensive than the standard price games? Uh, this isn't like a rule or anything, but the games that are going to be more expensive right now that we know of are Mario Kart World is going to be $80, and Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to be $70. We're presuming, I think I'm just presuming that is the digital only. Um, and then the $90 for physical is also sort of mind-boggling. $10 bump for a game key and a cartridge. Basically, you're paying $10 to be able to put it on your shelf. Yeah. So that is where we are right now. Joe, what do you have to say about all of this?
Yeah, this is all right. So on the one hand, you're like, we all agree that, gaming development is more expensive than ever. Developers need, like it does make sense that the games quote unquote have been as cheap as they've ever been, and so with inflation and everything, it makes sense to bring up prices to it. But the caveat is, minimum wage for most people around the world hasn't gone up. So to bring up the base price of all your entertainment and not have the base price of your actual paycheck come in, you are now getting into luxury tax territory. The So we forget that the price just went up with the PlayStation, with PS5 games and stuff like that
So,
from uh starting to become 70. The most recent one of the first games to do this was infamously Ubisoft's Skull and Bones. That $70 quadruple A title.
quadruple A.
That was their justification
First,
for jumping up that price.
first and only
Uh,
quadruple A game.
Yes. And we see how well that did for them. Uh, Now, Nintendo is now jumping it up even higher. And they're probably going to do it with their mainstream first party titles. So, all the Mario games, guaranteed Zelda is going to be there.
Oh, 100%.
It's like, yeah.
100%.
So, and then Also, infamously, Nintendo never drops really almost
Not
never
really.
drops the price of their mainstream games. Now, if it's a spin-off Mario game, like Mario and Rabbids, because it's Ubisoft, backed and stuff, they'll discount those. They'll discount maybe their tennis game or something like that, but they won't discount the mainstream money makers. And so they're once again, they know that they have
Yes.
their customer bent over a barrel, probably a
Hmm.
Donkey Kong barrel, and they're going to just bang on those conga drums and make you pay. And you know what, Nintendo fans will probably pay because that's the only way to get their fix. They'll just take it. Um, they'll pay to get punished is what's going to happen. Okay,
You can
so
stop. You can go
uh,
on. You may. You
oh
go
man,
ahead.
it's messed up, man. All right, that's all I
So,
gotta say about that.
so,
It's just
so, I mean, I have some thoughts on this. And I honestly don't really mind the. I don't love the price hike, obviously, but I don't mind the price hike. As much as one the more for the $10 more for a physical. I think five would probably be enough, but I don't like that either. But what bothers me the most is that we are no longer kind of going as an industry. Um, I think it might just be the way that it was I don't think there's any way to prevent this. Once games became once Steam happened and games could come out for $5 brand new from some random guy developer, and or $10 or 15, all the way up to the sky's the limit, but ostensibly at the time like 60, now 70, 80, or 90. um I think Nintendo is kind of looking over. I mean, it's funny because they are most easily compared with the Steam Deck right now, and I think they're looking over at Steam, funnily enough, and going, "You guys are charging different prices for different quality games." Um, and while we kind of set this, back in the day, they kind of set the standard for a lot of game stuff. Um, they're looking at it and going, but our games are worth more. We our games are in a higher demand, because we believe they're better quality or whatever. But at the very least, pretty hard to argue that they are in a higher demand, and so we want to get more money for that. Um, and I can't really, from a business standpoint, I can't really fault them for that. I get it. If I was in their business, that's what I would want as well. But it just it's just it just stinks, man. It's like, if it's getting a physical release, if it's a big enough, good enough game to merit a physical release, I think that it's better for the industry if we all go together. And if it's digital only, and it doesn't get its own cartridge and all that stuff, then yeah, the price is kind of different. But it's something so weird and gross about Nintendo knowing that you are buying their system basically only for the games that they make, because they're very good at games. Um, and then going like, okay, well, you're here for that, so we're gonna gouge you now. You're gonna get our system, and then you're gonna pay a premium price for a product that is frankly just not as good. I mean, spec wise. Um, so we're going to gouge you there, and then we're going to gouge you um, on the games that you came here for. Um, I don't know. That just sort of sits weird with me. It's
well,
it's
it's an
not it's not
exorbitant
great.
amount to pay $90 for a physical copy that isn't a full game in a cartridge. You know, when
Yeah, it's true too.
I mean, that's the thing. It's just like you're still paying a digital thing. I mean, that's ridiculous.
You're
It's a
paying,
scam,
yeah,
is
I
what it
mean,
is.
you're paying $10 for a barcode. You know, that's what you're paying that extra money for. Yeah, I, I it just tells me that they're very worried about the attach rate, that they're like, people are going to come here and they're going to buy a Switch 2, and over the course of its life, they're probably going to buy one game a year. And we're going to get them for all they're worth on that one Nintendo game that they buy per year. It just tells me that they're like, we don't have faith that you will come here and buy our games and buy the other games that we put on this thing. I don't know. It seems weird. Um, it just seems sort of like, if I was one of their business partners, I don't know. I kind of would look at that like, you don't think that we make good games. You think that only you make good games. But
Well, I mean, the thing is, Nintendo has been gouging people since for the entirety of the Switch. Uh, you know, the lackluster controllers, the Joy Cons, making them so super expensive. Once again, we've proven that they don't discount any of their things almost ever. Uh, they are pretending like this is a premium quality unit, and people, I think they're going to lose more fans based off this because once again, people are now finally accepted the $70 price point as being the new standard. People will usually wait until like a month until those new games go at least $10 on sale. But it's like people aren't just going to be spending $80. And once again, these are supposed to be for kids, right? In
yeah,
theory, your target demographic is elementary school to like high school. That is granted, you get a lot of people who grew up with the nostalgia, so you still got like a lot of 20-year-olds and stuff, and possibly 30. But you've literally price pointed those kids out of the market. A parent is going to be like, well, now I'm going to have to spend 450, uh it's like on a new system for my kid. 500, let's just say 500, because you're going to buy Mario Kart's going to be the game that they can play with their friends. So you're going to spend 500, comes with one game, but then after that, anytime they want the new Mario game, or the new big thing, that's a huge price point now, especially for and you've made it so that you're going to have to only the parents can only really buy one game every once in a while, and the kids are going to have to save up a whole lot more. It's not now, once again, if everyone was making more money, that's a different subject. But it is just really the worst thing you can do for trying to make it a family-friendly system. That was their whole outlook. Like, yes, we're doing our own thing. Yes, doing unique gameplay, and we're quirky, we're fun, and we're focused on the family. It's like, but now they're like, no, 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 we're greedy, and we don't care, and it doesn't show a love for the customer itself. And
yeah.
that is not the right image, but that is the image they've been portraying, saying, "Hey, guess what? You're promoting our stuff on YouTube. Well, screw you. Like we want you to go off the air. You're taking our revenue. We're not streaming our own stuff,
We're
but you're
literally
taking
doing an
our
ad.
revenue."
I'm literally doing an ad for your game. Like, that's literally,
Yeah,
yeah. Wow.
they're
Yeah.
like, check out how fun this is. Oh wait, we just got a copyright strike. I mean, Nintendo is bullying people left and right. Uh, the people who are in charge, like who are running, like not the faces of Nintendo, but the legit people behind the scenes that are running the system, they're running it into the ground in a lot of negative PR ways. Uh, Now we can hope that there's enough backlash because they just did a treehouse the other day, and one of the biggest things is the flood. The chat was just being flooded with
Oh, I saw that.
talking about price cuts.
Yeah. Drop
Yeah,
the
and that's
prize, drop the
hilarious.
prize, drop the prize. Yeah. Yeah, I did see that. Thinking about this, it tells me that Nintendo is is really betting it all on games and gameplay, on their own first party games and gameplay. And because they're not really going to get like AAA titles from other like from other systems. They're not going to compete in that way. So basically, uh,
Not according to the game list coming up.
well, yeah, well, no, but I mean, like these are old games. Like these are pretty much all old games in the game list. What they're saying is, you're going to come here for the primo Nintendo games, and then you're going to, and then this is going to be your indie machine, like on the go. Um, so that just tells me what I mean that these price points, these game price points, just tell me that is what they're betting on, and honestly, it does make sense. Um, I just think that it just rings as just a little bit too it rings as a little bit too grabby for me. And I'm not going to say greedy, but it rings as a little bit too grabby for me. The other thing that I don't like about it is that it is that um, I fully expect Sony and Microsoft to follow suit. I mean, now the Nintendo games, primo Nintendo games, are going to be $80. $10. Like this is Nintendo laying down the gauntlet to Sony's first party games and saying our games are fucking better than yours, and we're gonna show it. We're gonna charge people more, and people are gonna pay it. Than your God of War, or than your Last of Us, or than your like whatever. Like you're still charging $70 for those games. We're charging $80 for a game that runs at 35 hertz in 1080p. Like uh, that's what they're saying. And I don't think that Sony is going to take kindly to that. They're going to be like, oh, you think that Zelda, blocky, bloomy Zelda is better than our games? It's not. First party games at Sony are now going to be $80 or more. Yeah, I mean, like what? Like where does it stop? This is
So, all right, I agree with you on that. I totally agree with you on that. The only thing I would say is it's not the fact that Sony's looking at it as, oh, like we're gonna charge. You think your games are better than ours, and you're charging a higher price point. It's literally the skull and bones issue, or it's like it is that person. It's you're running whenever they have to break this door down. It is literally break. It's like a single SWAT officer trying to kick down a door, and it's like, and there's a bunch of guys with guns on the other side. Be like, yeah, the one guy who runs in first is always going to get shot, but the rest of then everyone else follows suit in its full force, and that's exactly what happened with Skull and Bones. It got flayed alive, but then everyone else is like, well, now that band-aid's been ripped off, let's go. And so, I mean, and rightfully so. God of War and stuff like that, like those AAA games, it's fine. To a certain extent. But now that, like I said, this just happened not that many years ago, and now Nintendo's like, yeah, guess what? We're doing it again. So that's why they're getting flayed alive. But now that there's a precedent, and now that that's there, and if they hold to it, then everyone else is like, hey guys, they did it. They walked so we can run all over their corpse. And that's is exactly kind of what it is. So this is the other part that Nintendo, you're supposed to be all about the consumer, you're supposed to be about the family. Instead, you just ruined it for the rest of us.
uh,
So way to go. you
yeah,
know
yeah. I don't know where. I mean, I'm sure that the market will make will make the correction for better or worse. But I think we probably are headed for a world where first party games are going to be more expensive. And maybe we were always headed that way, with games being digital and kind of just being all over the place. Maybe the price point of $60, $70 was a glass ceiling. Um, that was always going to get broken. But I liked. I like a little bit of. I think there's a little bit of goodwill that is that is communicated uh, when you have a ceiling on these kind of things. Maybe that's what we needed back in the '80s when the video games industry was about to collapse. We needed hey, there needs to be standards and it has to be here and parents have to know and all that stuff. And now that games are basically multiple industries in and of themselves, maybe now it's healthy enough that it can just be like, well, every man for himself. But yeah, that's sort of where we are right now, and it just um, it's it's sad in one way, but probably was always going to happen in another, and we'll just see
It's
how it
gonna
goes.
I'm gonna say this now. It's gonna hurt the industry in the long run because we're going too high too fast, and instead of trying to make these bigger and bigger epic sweeping games, maybe we should learn instead of everyone's saying how it's the price point, uh and games are being taking longer to make. Well, maybe we should look at how we're producing the games, how they're being developed, and change that function, because what's going to happen is when these games are being charged 80, and they're not selling off the they're flying off the shelves like they should be to make their quota. People are just going to sit back, wait for them to go on sale, and more studios are going to close down because of it. More and more people are going to lose their jobs, and the boom of the double A market, or the B tier game, or whatever you want to say, is going to start really coming up, because those are going to be the guys who are going to sell it for 40-50 bucks a pop, and they're going to be solid games. They're not going to be the AAA experience you're expecting, but they're just going to be solid. And they're not going to be the multi-million dollar extravaganzas, because you know making a AAA title is almost like making a Hollywood film as far as the budget goes now.
It's huge. Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, but by making them that crazy expensive, people, once again, people's minimum wage, people's base salaries aren't increasing at the same rate as these games are, and that's why that's kind of why the games industry has to keep them down, the games priced at a certain point.
Yeah.
And then and as a reflex, you're going to get people more interested in piracy now. I mean, it's like people are going to start to dabble a bit more because they're like, well, I don't want to spend 80 bucks. And especially with Nintendo being like, well, if someone finds a way to break the new Switch 2, a lot of people are going to be like, well, I'm not going to spend $80 for uh, that game, and I'm going to go ahead and try to pirate it instead. Uh, I think this is the wrong method. Uh, though, if you're going to ask me what the right thing to do is, unfortunately, that's a little harder said, because obviously we've been saying these developers need to make more money, and that's why live service is such a golden egg for them if they can actually get it right. Um and that's why they're doing all those stupid limited edition variants, right? uh Buy now and you get this extra outfit, extra this, anything to help the developers. And a lot of people still go with the base game, you know
Mm-hmm.
um so it's like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I actually don't have the proper answer for that, for how to fix but it's like, I think the in the end, companies are going to have to learn to scale the scope of their games. And I think that's legit going to have to be the bigger thing. Like, well, you're going to have to trim the team as they've been doing, but then they explode and they start blowing them up again. But you got to have more of a focused guide, and it's only certain studios like the Ubisofts who do the big, massive open world shenanigans and try to pack more and more into their game, making them last forever. But it hurts them shortly after. Then it hurts them because then they're going to have to they lay off so many people because it doesn't meet expectations. Square Enix, big hoopla every time they come out with a new AAA game. They're like, it didn't meet our expectations, and they're like, dude, we looked at it as, they've said how they look at it as an investment. If they were to try to do like stock markets and stuff, how much money they would get if they were just to invest that money normally. um, and it turns out to be a loss for them often. uh,
I
so
mean,
I think it's
we are already kind of doing this with like TV and movies and stuff a little bit because of the Netflix and all the streaming services. Um, but like, what if we? I mean, like, what if we did this for movies where it's like Gladiator 2, $50 for a movie ticket. Um, I can't even think of a bad movie right now that wouldn't make any money. But basically, like little tiny movie made by an indie studio or whatever, $2. Like it's like it's still 2 hours. It's still, there's still this like standard. It's like, hey, here's a 50-hour game, um, and the studio is going to charge $35 for it, whereas there's this like other 50-hour game made by a different studio, and they're going to charge 60, 70, $80 for it or whatever. I mean, we've kind of been doing that with 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 these digital games for a while and indie stuff, but I feel like when you set a price point, um, it's kind of a standard that someone has to meet, and I guess that's what's being carried over. It's like we think our game is worth $80. You're gonna have $80 worth of fun, in this like in this game. Um, to just like I really would have been honestly I would have been more okay if Nintendo was like, we're making games $80 and 90 for physical. It's the the splitting up and doing everything all kinds of like all kinds of price points where now it's just the Wild West. That's what really bothers me, because at least for an $80 price point I could go, okay, they're going to set it at $80, and then we're going to have the Switch 2 as the main system for the next 10 years. They might put out a new system in 7 or 8, but it's going to be $80 for 10 years, and Nintendo is going to make more money now and lose money later, and it'll even out. But since it's like all over the map, yeah. Anyway, we like I probably talked about this too much, but yeah, seems to be. I mean, this is the biggest sticking point to me. Everything else, I can either understand or live with, and a lot of things I think are actually really good. I was fully expecting to pay $500 for a Switch 2. So 450 is a nice break on that. And some of these other things are I've like I don't even know if I'm happy or mad about them, because I've been like pretty sure that it was going to happen for a long time now. But the price stuff is irksome to me. I can afford it,
Yeah,
like
I
I'm not.
mean, you're spending $90 for, like I said, I would be more happy if you're spending $90 for a real game. And once again, to show, just to explain how like the quality of it's still cheaper for us than it used to be. I mean, because this you're going back to Super Nintendo prices, right? We're
Yeah,
talking about like Donkey Kong Country 2 being $80 back when that launched. So by now, that's probably 100 plus bucks, or something like that. You have like
back when the
Earthbound
national
being
debt
90 bucks when it
was in the
came out.
single digits. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's just like games being, base games being 60, $70 back in the day for Super Nintendo. Uh, that's the fact that it's relatively stayed, that's amazing, yes. But also that was a far different time because you had way less studios. You only had a handful of releases the entire year. So you can kind of get away with it because there was no competition.
right.
But in a world that's saturated with so much competition, like that's why a lot of people are like, well, I'm switching to a cheaper system. That's and I know you go to Nintendo for your certain games, certain fixes, and for certain family members, and that makes it used to make perfect sense. I used to be able to support them no matter how cruddy the graphics were or like how downplayed it was. It's fine because it's playing to their strengths. Towards the end of the Switch release, you're like, well, now some of your staples um, are running at really garbage frame rates, and it's starting to look more and more worse. I'm like, you're not keeping up with the quality anymore. Uh, and now that they're trying to like, we're back and we're gouging you better than ever, and I'm like, I just can't justify uh Nintendo as a company anymore. It's just like, yeah, I am stepping away from this. Like, I am not going to buy my kids this. And unless if there's some reason for me to really get it, I can't really see it. I mean, it's just like, yeah, I don't support this at all. Unfortunately, the damage is done, and it's gonna snowball from here. Uh,
Yeah.
and then not this, and in the US, it's only going to get worse for us, especially for uh, the unit and the games in the near future, because yeah, your next thing you're going to talk about the tariffs.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. We'll move on to that. So talk about some of the interesting games here in a second. But first, the there's a bit of news uh about pre-orders. Let's see. Okay, let's start with the beginning. So Donald Trump has been threatening tariffs for a while, but on the particular day that the Switch 2 uh, uh, what was announced and talked about um, is when he named specific tariffs that were going to affect it. I think one's against China or something along those lines. And so soon after, Nintendo issued a notice that they were going to pause pre-orders on the Nintendo Switch 2, apparently due to tariffs. I'm trying to remember where I read that, but everyone seems to be saying it's due to tariffs. I don't know if they say it specifically, but ostensibly, it is due to tariffs or the threat of tariffs that may or may not come out. So that is sort of interesting. Pausing pre-orders. I'm trying to think. You're pausing pre-orders because because of tariffs, but really you're
Can't
probably
guarantee the pricing.
because you can't guarantee the price. So that leaves it up to debate whether or not they would. So theoretically, if the tariffs were bad enough and high enough, they would change the price on the Switch. So okay, so that's sort of what that seems to mean in a nutshell. But so for now, they have paused it as of April 4th, and we will see if they. I imagine that once the tariffs are settled, at least to some degree, that they'll open that back up. But you never. I mean, like you never know. There may not actually ever be any more pre-orders because the game might come out. Because I imagine that the tariff stuff is going to continue for a while. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, so what they're saying, what like the Verge article from the other day, was saying that at a 450, the average tariff being around 40%, so that's an extra $180. So you're looking at like 630 for the unit, thanks to tariffs. If you
wow.
play that simple math, the reality of it, who knows? And people were arguing that's why one of the potential reasons why Nvidia launched their new graphics cards early, so they can technically be like, "Yep, we did. We launched it at the price we said we were," and like even though it was a paper launch, so
You technically can't say we
Nintendo,
didn't. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but Nintendo doesn't have an American version; they just have an international version at a set price.
Hmm.
So it's they're still launching it at that price for the rest of the world. It's not our fault. It's not their fault that our region changed. So
Yeah, I mean, are we gonna be having to buy black market Switch twos because they only cost $538 instead of $650 or whatever? That is that is going to be a question for the ages. Wow. Yeah. So
I mean,
um,
for 630, you might as well get yourself a PS5 Pro for just a little bit more.
yeah. Unless the PS5 Pro goes up to another $160 or whatever, along with those same tariffs.
Yeah.
So
This is going to be a great luxury tax for us all. Yeah, I mean, once again, it
God,
reminds me of actually being in Japan, like a decade ago, and being like, "Hey, why is this DVD of fucking Die Hard, like $50 or something like that?" It's
because it's worth
you
it.
know they pay, yeah, they pay more for entertainment, but it's because it's entertainment. They look at it as a luxury. Music is way more expensive.
Expensive, yeah.
It's like you get music CDs still being sold quite quite readily available for like 30 to $50 for just CDs. It's weird, and that's just the society that they are. I mean, I remember seeing Blu-rays going on sale for like $90. And it's just like not a box set of the entire season, but like just
Yeah.
singular ones with the it was crazy for some of the pricing out there. But now the joke's on them because that stuff is still dirt cheap. Uh,
Yeah.
it's like it's a common joke that they've been raising prices for all the tourists, and all the tourists still come over and be like, "Dude, that's still a pretty good price," because that's how strong the rest of the world's currency is. Uh,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, it's we're gonna get hit hard. Digital is most definitely gonna be where it's at for, and I think PC gaming is going to see a boon,
Well,
despite you know
so
graphics cards being more expensive.
with all this talk about prices and stuff like that, and our ire for Nintendo's hubris with their game prices and stuff, I think I was telling you about this a while ago. I saw this meme. Um, Not saying that I endorse it, but I did see this meme that was like, if buying isn't owning, then torrenting isn't stealing. And I was like, ooh, that is very, very interesting way to think about it. Because I mean, it is like, wow, you're making me buy this thing that's basically just a license that, you know, it's like, yeah, you buy a car, you're not going to drive it forever, but you could if you wanted to. You own it. You can park it in your lawn and you've paid for it. But with games, software like this, you are buying it to lease it. You are renting it until they shut the servers down and you can no longer download it, and that's it. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Um, let's jump over to interesting games for this. I think that podcast getting a bit long in the tooth, but we have a couple games here that we thought were kind of interesting. Um, First up, that's a big long list. Um, Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD remaster caught my attention. I've always wanted to get into the Bravely Default series, but haven't had the time or wherewithal to do it. I think it's on. I don't think it's on Switch, is it? Or at least not Bravely Default. Um, I can't
They
remember.
were originally 3DS
I was
games,
gonna say,
and
yeah,
I yeah, I always hated them because they look like butt. I mean, like
yeah,
I wish they had like they are PS. They remind me of Wild Arms for the PS1. These blocky character models, and it has its own charm. Don't get me wrong, but I prefer like uh 2D sprites.
right, yeah.
Something with a little more quality. And you're now going to the Switch 2, and you have a game that characters look like like PS1 or like Nintendo DS, 3DS game quality. I'm like, I think that's unacceptable. I think you can afford to make your characters, they're the chibi models, big heads, and like you can make them look cuter. You can make them look more acceptable. You can make them just do anything, but they still look like garbage. Um, so that's why I personally, it's like I rolled my eyes when I'm like, you still look like trash. Um, so
Yeah, I
I
probably
know it's
won't
a
get it,
remaster,
to
not
be
a
honest.
remake, but
Um,
still
it
put in
it,
some
it,
effort.
it is a game that pops up because I have heard good things about the gameplay and stuff like that. But it's been this long, and I think they're on Switch in some way or another. So, but that was one of the early ones that caught my eye. Next one is Mario Kart World. Um, yeah, this is going to be the main launch title. Not a lot of games that it's not a lot of Nintendo first party games that it's launching with. I don't think, but you know this one is going to be kind of the flagship for a while. Um, Sweeping, lots of stuff in it. Seems pretty interesting. I would have rathered something else maybe than this, but it is what it is, and we'll get probably some more good games coming out later. But yeah, so speaking of amazing games coming out, what do you have, Joe?
All right, so this all accumulates to my hatred for this system already.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so you have this exorbitant price point for a glorified PS4 because they're coming out with games like Hitman, World of Assassin. Great game, not the most next gen level tech. You have yourself. They're coming out with Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition. So once again, like the fact that it's going to have to run better than the PS4, right? Because but at this point, I figured they optimized it, and they're going to they have it a little bit more streamlined. But for the love of anything, so they are trying to make the game this current Switch more adult focused. Kind of like how they went from the Nintendo 64 to the GameCube. GameCube was like, we got Resident Evil 4, and it's just like we got Killer 7. We got blood on our console too. So that's kind of what they're doing now. Is it like, yeah, we too can play with the big boys. Please come and play a lesser experience of an already game that's been out for a while. But what irks me is, we talked about them charging an exorbitant amount for games. Well, luckily, this one, uh, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, yeah, they're charging you for a tutorial slash explanation field guide to your system.
Yeah.
Uh, Astrobot, Playroom, Astro's Playroom. Come on, man, that was free. Had the entire history of all PlayStation right there at your fingertips, from the controllers to the handhelds. This great thing all for free. Nintendo's like, yeah, we're gonna give you a trimmed down experience. We're gonna give you only the Switch 2. We're gonna let you look at boring little Miiverse peoples, and still gonna charge you for it. And it's granted, it's only like $6 or something like that. I
Oh, you stole my joke.
£5 or something.
Five
But yeah, it's
pounds.
just like we're gonna charge you for a what should be a flippin' welcome tutorial guide. It's
That
just
should
like
be free. It should-
it.
I
It,
mean, you were
it should be
like,
a pack-in. It should be defaulted in the memory and be like, please delete this to make more room for your other games.
pri-
Uh,
prior to you
but
saying
they're literally charging you for this.
prior to you saying the price, I was going to make the joke. I was going to say, Joe, how much does it cost? Or I would ask how much it costs, but any amount is too much. And it's like $6, really? Like $6? Why don't you just go? Why are you making me pay for this? Like, this should be a pack in. This should be this should be something
And
you don't
it
even put
doesn't
on the
show
box.
gameplay.
Yeah.
It really doesn't show any gameplay. It shows you walking up to like a museum style thing and being like, "This is where the magnets connect, and this is how the controllers connect to the thing." It doesn't actually have a fun element other than walking around in a museum,
This is a YouTube
and
video,
you're
right?
charging. Yeah.
Yeah. This is
So what was that?
ridiculous. I said
Oh yeah.
this is a YouTube video. Like that's what it is. It's and they're charging, and it's like $6. If you put enough in there, some ridiculous something or whatever, and you charged $10 or $15 for it, but it had some gameplay, or it has like, first we'll show you how to use a Switch, and then if you want, you can look at the history of Nintendo. It has like a documentary or something that you could kind of play through. I'd be like, okay, you're trying to get my money. You're trying to trying to gouge me a little bit. I get it, but you're at least trying to give me some value, and this is just not anything. But
In a post Astro's Playroom world where you have Astro like literally jumping, collecting coins, unlocking new things, getting, like going through different areas, actually having zones and levels, I mean, and hidden stuff, that like to have this and then charge for this while Astro's was nothing. I mean, once again, if you had Mario like in and defaulted to like Mario 64, and instead of the castle having the Switch just lying that and then jumping around, uh, doing the wahoos and collecting stuff, that's at least something. But this is garbage. I mean, once again, I can watch someone do this on YouTube and then watch them get copyright strike. There you go. That's why they did it. They do the copyright strike just so that no one would just steal this glorious content from them. Um,
they're
yeah.
starting up their own video service. I wouldn't
All
be
right.
surprised. So next up, a couple couple ones. So Hyrule Warriors: Age of Imprisonment. So new Hyrule Warriors game, with a lot of the characters from Tears of the Kingdom. Um, Nothing really to say there. Just that this is going to be kind of one of the I guess bigger games that's going to come out fairly soon. Um, and then a couple other games. I'll mention the lower one first, and then come back. So Reanimal is going to be on this system. I'm excited for it because I haven't got a chance to play um, the Little Nightmares 2 yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to like it, and so I'm going to get to it soon, and I'll be excited to play Reanimal. And Little Nightmares 3, I'll probably give that a try as well. But that's going to be coming here. Probably won't play it on this system, though. I probably will play it on my PlayStation 5. And then, yeah. So, but at least it's coming to this, so that'll be nice. And then Hollow Knight Silk Song has a general release window of sometime in 2025. I didn't really think about this until I was watching Penguin Zero Moist Critical video. And he was like, "We got like 6 seconds of footage on Silksong." I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess we did." And a general window for release. So someone seems to think that it's going to come out in 2025. Joe, do you think that's going to happen?
I don't care. I stopped
Okay.
caring about this game forever ago. I mean, like you've been just jerking people along for so long about this game. You're like, yeah, Silk Song's coming. Oh my gosh, I saw a clip. It's just like, you know what? They're gonna have an announcement to an announcement of the announcement of when they're gonna have a release date again.
So
Because
this
Silk
reminds
Song,
this reminds me
it's
of Star Citizen. Only
yeah.
not
I
quite
mean,
as
well,
bad.
that's Nintendo. Oh, that's actually a great thing. Nintendo's gonna don't give them that idea because then they're gonna have just give us all your money now, and we will maybe make a new game for that you can overly pay for.
They
Um, but yeah. Anyways, for
start the
those who want it, great. Don't hold your breath. And those who actually no, do hold your breath. If you're dumb enough to do it, then you Darwin awarded your way out of society. Um, no, Silk Song is Hollow Knight's a great game, but people have been waiting too long, and I hope it lives up to their expectations. I really
it
do.
can't.
I
It
just
can't.
never like I like the gameplay. I played it for quite a bit, but it just
Wasn't for you.
there's something about it. It was the art style. It can be boiled down to the art style. If it had a different aesthetic, I think I would have really liked it. But the gameplay was and the brute like especially when it came out, games weren't. It was one of the few games that were that brutal
Yeah.
to you. It was a challenging type of game. The early quote unquote Souls like game, but like in a 2D mode. So I appreciated it for what it was. Um, and I know people have been clamoring, chomping at the bit, and that's why they're so excited. I mean, Nintendo did a good job about getting a couple of these, quick release, clips of new things coming out, and great. I mean, but the other thing is, once again, talking about how this is a glorified, PS4 Pro, PS5 crossover system. I mean, you got a lot of rehashes of older Nintendo Switch games, which makes sense because like we're providing extra features like those new Legend of Zeldas or the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. We're like, well, it has some new features now. I'm like, that's cool. You're gonna get some of your old classic favorites are gonna get a little jazzed up. I'm all for that, but at the same time, because it gives you something more. And they did say, I believe they talked about an upgrade path for that. I'm like, you know what? Awesome.
Hmm.
I'm all for it. I did this. I feel I don't feel like you should be entitled to just get the new version of a game just because you own the previous one.
Hmm.
I mean, like, because if there's doing work to it, then it's okay to pay for an extra bump in price, in quality, and price. That's anything. That's just the way it should be. But when it comes to these new titles, once again, it's just like there's not a whole lot to expect. Hollow Knight Silk Song is going to be is widely anticipated, but nothing. It's just 2025. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, it'll probably make it, and if not, guess what? Their fans aren't going to be that
Well, they're
surprised.
not even. I mean,
I mean, no one's going to.
they're not confident enough to say December or November or something. It's just 2025. It's like, well,
Isn't it? Did they exclusive? Did they make it like? I know some of the other stuff they've brought up. They've like temporarily exclusive or something. Like,
I don't
but this
know.
is
I
just
can't.
people brought it
I
up.
I can't remember, but
Okay.
I'm sure it's. I mean, I don't know. It's not really. It's. I don't have a dog in this race. I don't really. I don't really care that much. I actually would like to go back and play Hollow Knight all the way through. I played only a handful of hours on it and liked it, but so I would like to play that, prior to this coming out. But I'm just I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's nice that it's someone thinks that it's going to happen, and honestly I hope it does. Um, the last game that I thought I'd bring up is definitely okay. So this one I do have to give props because this is a big get. I feel like this is um, the new game from FromSoft, and it is called The Dusk Bloods, um, and it appears to be, according to what it says after the trailer, that it's going to be only on Nintendo Switch 2, at least as a timed exclusive. I find it hard to believe that it would be locked on the Switch 2, like Bloodborne or something. Um, but at least for a while, it seems like it's going to be only on Switch 2. Looks pretty cool. Looks like it looks like a game from software, Um, uh, and I mean, I do have to give props that it does, that it is a really big, good get for Nintendo. Only thing that I will say is I think that the Dusk Bloods is not a great name. I don't know what it means. I don't really know what it's about other than kind of vampires and stuff. But I think Dusk Bloods is doesn't really roll off the tongue, doesn't really have a good ring to it, doesn't really mean anything. So I think that the name is bad. But I imagine the game will probably be quite good.
You got to have blood in there somewhere, man. I mean, that's how else do you know it's not from soft game? I mean, unless if you call it Elden Ring,
Elden
or
Blood Ring.
well, which and they are getting Elden Ring
Oh
on there
yeah,
as well.
yeah, that's happening too.
So, I mean, once again,
That's wild.
they
That's
have to be
exciting.
confident enough that it'll at least run these games at a capable 30. Um, Gosh, imagine if they didn't. How sad that would be.
It'll.
But once again, we're hoping for that whole upscaling technology with NVIDIA to help fill in the gaps and make it stable. Uh, there's no way. I feel like there's no way. Like Cyberpunk or Elden Ring are going to run at 60, like a solid 60. Uh, I just
Oh
can't
no.
see it unless if they have graphic settings. That'd be kind of neat if they actually decided to tweak it a little bit, kind of like most general consoles, where it's like, hey, you got the graphics mode and the performance mode, and you can make it look like Nintendo Switch One graphics, but it'll play at a solid 60. That would be kind of neat.
Hmm.
Uh, but we'll see. Once again, there's a lot of games announced for it. Granted, a lot of these games are also going to be Nintendo Switch and coming out for the Switch and the Switch 2, which you're not going to alienate, the entire Switch 1 fan base, especially if you can't get certain games. Because while uh, we're going to be tariff to crap, possibly on physical media, at least we'll be able to play on our old Switch ones some of these new like games coming out. uh they may not be the best running, best quality, but we can still play them.
Hmm.
uh I don't know, man. I'm done.
Yeah, I could tell.
Let's
I could tell that you are very done with this. I have to say, finally, like I always try to say, I will be very happy to eat crow on anything and everything that I have said here today. Like in 4 years, after I have my third Switch in as many colors and iterations, um, I'll be happy to come back and say, man, I was so wrong, and the price changes, that made everything better in a way I couldn't understand, and it ran better than I thought it was going to run, and it's just been a colossal, success and all that stuff. I really sincerely hope that I get to say that because I really want Nintendo to succeed. I want all of the game companies to succeed. I want good games to play, um, and I want it to make sense. I think that there's a lot of good here. There is a lot of things that Nintendo is doing right. Obviously, it's not free, and it's not a it's not going to break down doors with how fast it's running and all that stuff and how great it is. But the backwards compatibility, and sort of some of the price point I think is reasonable. I I'm probably the one that thinks that, and a lot of these other things that they're finally getting in here, um, and the fact that they seem to be putting all their chips in on gameplay. Um, those things are things that I kind of rest my hopes on, and I just hope that it's good. But either way, it's here, and we will be here to lampoon it, as time goes on. So yeah, that's sort of the long and short of it. Yeah,
I totally agree. In the end, despite me all my rage, I
you're
just
still
hope
just a
that
rat in
they,
the cage. I'm sorry.
Red in the cage. Yeah,
Can't
I
resist.
knew I walked right into that one. Dang it. But okay. No, I would, if it turns out that the system runs, buttery smooth and it's everything people wanted, great. And I will be happy to dish out the money if if it's a system worth buying. Uh, you know, tariffs and all, essentially, uh, can't be any worse than pandemic scalping, right? So,
Where's some wood?
anyways,
We need to
when
knock on some wood right now.
it's gonna be, no, they're gonna compound, right? There's it's gonna be scalped and tariff hike.
Yeah.
But one thing we did forget to mention is there is part of the online system that they're doing, for the premium service for the online. I believe they did also add GameCube games, or they're going to be adding GameCube
Right.
games to the
Yeah. I
mix.
remember. Yeah.
So I forgot about that altogether.
Me too.
But that's a cool new setup, and they are trying to make it more uh, relevant. I mean, pretty soon it's only a matter of time before they do their own streaming service, like much like Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, like, so that would also change the dynamics a lot, actually, if they could, instead of paying $80 for these games, if you're paying a subscription service to Netflix, their catalog essentially. I think that would be a smart move. Might be the inevitable move. Um, it may not be the best for quality experience, and people may not be but I think it, price per, gameplay, and for the average person, that would be a easier pill to swallow. Uh, but once again, Nintendo making waves one way or the other, and fingers crossed this isn't the like their every other console tank, the bomb, because it's like we don't want this to be another Wii U situation, and it won't, to be honest.
Oh no.
But
No.
it, I mean, I don't think anything can be that bad anymore. Uh, but the world's a different place, and we'll see how people talk big, but most people still cave. And like I said,
Yeah.
it's like the people are like, I'm not going to pay those prices, and then they secretly just dish it out
Uh,
and be like,
Yeah, I mean, like I make no bones about it. Like I will buy this eventually. I will. I may not buy it in June. I may not be able to buy it in June. But I will almost certainly have this system in my hand by the end of 2025. Um, and you know that's so like I but I feel like it's fine to complain about prices and stuff. Um, but if but and still buy it and all that stuff. Everything's too high. Everything sucks. Um, but yeah, the people. And I know you just said that you're never going to buy it, but like the people that like say that they. Well, I don't know if you said you never, but people who are like, I will never buy this, and it's like, whoa, pump the brakes. It's not really worth going down like that. because never's a long
I don't
time.
have the plans to buy it. I will say this right
Yeah,
now. I don't
yeah,
plan to buy it. And like I said, if it proves otherwise, or if they have the things, if it has the lineup that warrants it,
mhm,
I will be glad to buy it. But once again, for I've aged out of,
yeah,
and I've my tastes in games have it changed. So the new Mario, the new Metroid, the Zelda, those don't interest me enough because I can get my fix on similar things elsewhere. Um, I have children, so chances are I might end up being strong armed to buy this anyways.
yeah.
When like when that time
You
comes.
like
Instead, I'm just gonna throw an Xbox and a Call of Duty at my kid and be like, "Have at it, man! Just go straight to live chat, no scope them all. Just be careful what you say because other people are recording you.
Yeah,
Go."
for real. Yeah, I mean, it might be fair to say that Nintendo hasn't sold you yet, uh, but they might sell your they might sell your kids to buy it, and your kids might sell you might sell you to buy it by forcing you through tears and crying. But yeah, it's good. It's good to reserve judgment. I feel like, and I think there's plenty of judgment that can be reserved.
All right. Well, guys, this has been a much longer than average ADP. This has been episode 121. Uh, if you made it this far, we appreciate it. And Nick, what are some words of wisdom you have for the folks out there?
Um, you know, um, bunny suits. Maybe just don't. Maybe just don't.
Uh, take it from Nick. He's learned the hard way. All right, guys. Y'all take it easy. Until next time.
Bye.